All right, let's talk about something that's a huge headache for pretty much anyone in hospital administration: compliance. It often feels like this constant chaotic scramble, right? Well, today we're going to break down how you can build a structured compliance calendar to finally get some control over all that risk. We're talking about moving from total chaos to total control. So let's get right into it. So let's be real for a second. Does managing all the compliance stuff at your hospital ever feel like you're just lost in a maze? You've got rules and regulations coming at you from every single direction. It can be pretty overwhelming. And if you feel that way, you are definitely not alone. It's a huge problem, and it's exactly what we're going to tackle today. Especially for those bigger multi-specialty hospitals, this isn't just some complicated paperwork. It is an incredibly high-stakes challenge. I mean, one tiny mistake, one slip-up, can lead to some really serious consequences. Think about it. Every single department, from the surgical wing to the pharmacy, has its own unique, complex set of rules they have to follow. It's a lot to handle. Okay, so let's really dive into what makes this such a labyrinth in the first place. Because, you can't solve a problem until you truly understand just how big it is. Let's break down the complexity. I mean, just look at the sheer variety of regulations we're dealing with here. It's not just one or two things. You've got HIPAA to protect patient privacy, you've got OSHA standards for employee safety, and then there are these huge accreditation bodies like JCI or NABH, and that's all on top of your own internal hospital policies. It really is this massive, tangled web of requirements. And how are most hospitals trying to juggle all of this? You guessed it. Spreadsheets, endless email chains, maybe a few sticky notes for good measure. But let's be honest, these manual tools are just not up to the task. They weren't built for this kind of complexity. All they really do is create confusion, open the door for human error, and pretty much guarantee that critical deadlines are going to fall through the cracks. Okay, so what happens when those deadlines do get missed? Let's talk about the high cost of failure. Because we're not talking about a simple slap on the wrist here. The risks are, well, they're significant. First up, the most obvious one, the money. We're talking about potential fines that can easily run into the millions of rupees. Just let that sink in for a moment. That's a huge number that can absolutely cripple a hospital's budget and resources. But really, it's about so much more than just the fines. Imagine an expired license suddenly shutting down a critical service. Poof, radiology is closed for the day. Or think about the damage to your reputation when a compliance failure goes public. That patient trust you've worked so hard to build, it can evaporate. And of course, this all opens you up to lawsuits and painful, lengthy investigations. The ripple effects are just massive. So here you can really see the two worlds side by side. On one hand, you have the manual tracking mess, missed deadlines, confusing communication, and audits that are a total nightmare. And on the other hand, a centralized system. We're talking real-time visibility, smooth workflows, and way fewer errors. The difference is just night and day. So if that's the problem, what's the solution? This is where the periodic compliance calendar comes in. It's your centralized solution, a powerful tool that's literally designed to bring some much-needed order to all this chaos. So what is it exactly? Well, at its core, a periodic compliance calendar is a single, structured system. Its whole purpose is to centralize every single compliance task, automate all those annoying reminders, and make absolutely sure that every department knows what they need to do and when they need to do it. It becomes your one single source of truth for everything compliance-related. Now, a really effective calendar isn't just a list of dates. It's built on a few core components that all work together. You've got to map out every single regulation so nothing gets missed. Then you need automated scheduling and reminders. That's just non-negotiable. It also needs a way to collect and document evidence, which is an absolute lifesaver come audit time. And on top of that, you want risk assessment, integration with other systems, and a way to constantly review and improve. It's a whole ecosystem. Okay, I know that sounds like a lot, but building one is actually super manageable if you have a solid plan. So let's walk through a practical 7-step building plan. This is your roadmap to get this thing up and running. So here it is, the 7 steps. First, you do a gap analysis to see where you stand. Second, define who's responsible for what. Third, you plug in all those key dates. Fourth, set up automated alerts. Fifth, create your documentation protocols. Sixth, you train your people. And seventh, you constantly review and refine. Now, let's break those down a little bit more. All right, so those first 3 steps, they're all about building a solid foundation. You start with a gap analysis, which is really just a fancy way of saying you figure out what's broken in your current system. Then you define stakeholders, which is so critical. Every single task needs an owner. No more, I thought you were doing it. And then you populate all the dates. Get everything in there. Renewals, audits, training sessions, you name it. Okay, once that foundation is set, it's all about execution and maintenance. You set up those alerts, let the system do the nagging for you. You establish clear rules for how to document everything, so when an auditor shows up, you're not scrambling. Then you train your teams so everyone uses the system the same way. And finally, and this is so important, you make it a habit to review and refine, because compliance is always changing and your system needs to change right along with it. All right, let's talk about the real game changer here, the secret sauce that makes this whole thing work so well, automation. This is what takes your calendar from being just a fancy checklist and turns it into a smart, dynamic system that actually works for you. And the benefits are just huge. Look at this. The number one advantage, a massive drop in human error. I mean, that alone is worth it. But it also centralizes all your tracking, makes audits ridiculously simple because the evidence is already there, and oh yeah, it saves you a ton of time. Who doesn't want that? And this is how it works in the real world. Imagine your compliance system talking directly to your other hospital systems. It can check with HR to see when a nurse's license is up for renewal. It can connect to your electronic health records for clinical compliance. It can even tell the facility system to schedule a safety inspection or check with the learning system to make sure everyone's training is up to date. It literally connects all the dots for you, automatically. So when you put all of this together, what you're really doing is more than just adopting a new tool. You're actually changing the entire culture around compliance at your hospital. It's a fundamental shift from being reactive to proactive. And that shift is a big one. You go from this constant state of firefighting, always in crisis mode, to a state of continuous readiness. You stop being so vulnerable to simple mistakes and start actively minimizing your risk. And all those scattered, disjointed efforts, they get replaced by one efficient, centralized system. It really is a massive cultural shift for the better. So, what's the big takeaway here? A well-designed compliance calendar is way more than just a tool for your admin team. It's a strategic asset. It helps you slash your risk, make your whole operation more efficient, and keeps you ready for an audit at a moment's notice. And that really brings us to the final, crucial question. It's the one you should be asking yourself. We've seen how high the stakes are, and we've seen how clear the solution is. So, is your hospital actually prepared to get ahead of this? Are you ready to finally move from chaos to control?